Welcome back. Remember, yesterday Charlie, Red, and Preston met their new teacher, but it wasn't in the best of circumstances. They almost knocked her down. He told his father when he got home after going to the store what had happened, and he said, "Well, Charlie, you boys shouldn't have been running in the street. You know, you need to just prove yourself to her. She might be watching you for a little bit, but I'm sure she'll get to know you boys and it will all turn out okay." So Charlie, Red, and Preston went into their 5th grade classroom at Oak Street School. And as you can see, they were sitting right in front of Miss Johnson's desk where she could keep an eye on them. And she did just that. On her desk, she also kept an alarm clock. So if anybody come in late, she would look at them, she would look at the alarm clock, and then she would look back at you. So they knew they had better not be late for her class. Things went okay. She never smiled at them. She really didn't smile at anybody too often. They did their work, but they always felt that she was watching them, which she was. She stood over them as they were working in class. Red thought she asked them the hardest questions, but Charlie said, "That's just your imagination, Red. She'll get to know us, and she'll know that we really didn't mean to almost knock her down. She'll like us after a while." Well, Preston said, "I wish she would just smile once in a while." So the boys were walking home from school, and Charlie said, "Remember our verse, the verse we memorized for Sunday school? That really means a lot to me this week as we're going back to school. And we know that all things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." We might be uncomfortable the first few days at school, but you know, this will get better. "Well, I hope so, Charlie," said Red. That night, as Charlie was going to sleep, he had said his prayers. He had prayed even for Miss Johnson. He said, "Oh, Lord, I know things work together for good. I just hope that it will get better. And I just thank you for all the blessings you have given me." And then Charlie had an idea. What if Red and Preston and I tell Miss Johnson that we're Christians, that we really are sorry, that we just want to be good to her and that we like her, and that we want her to know about Jesus too? Charlie was so excited. This was putting into practice what he had learned in Vacation Bible School and church camp last summer. In the morning, he got up early, and like he always did, he met Red and Preston, and they went to school. They were on time. They were in the front of the class, and they did everything that Miss Johnson said, even though she didn't smile at them. They got their homework ready, and it was at the end of the day. All of the other students had walked out, and they stayed behind. And they were really nervous. They were almost shaking. Miss Johnson finally looked up and said, "Well, what do you want? It's time to go home." Charlie said, "Well, Miss Johnson, we wanted to tell you something." "Well, what is it? I've got papers to grade. What do you want to tell me?" Well, Red said, "You know, we really are sorry of what happened before school started." And then Preston jumped in and said, "Yes, we really are sorry." And then Charlie gathered all of his courage and he said, "Well, we just wanted to know that we are Christians and that we love Jesus and that we're saved and that we want you to be a Christian too." Miss Johnson didn't say anything. She just looked at them. "What do you mean you're Christians?" "Well, you know, We love Jesus. We've accepted him as our personal Savior. And, you know, we want to you to have a good impression of us. We really are good, and we want to share the news of Jesus. She just looked at them for a moment, and she said, well, that's fine. I would rather you just behave in class. Now go home now. I've got all this work to do. So they went home. And Preston said, well, Charlie, I don't know that that amounted to anything. I don't think she even heard us. And Charlie said, well, remember our verse. All things work together. We're trusting God. That evening, the boys got together at Preston's house. They were finishing up their homework. Plus, Miss Johnson was having a history test the next day. And they wanted to be ready for it. So they were going to quiz each other and study together. They got all their homework finished, and Preston said, well, I forgot to bring my book home. Did you guys bring your history book? Red said, I didn't bring my history book. I thought you would have yours. Charlie said, I didn't bring my history book. Why didn't you bring your history book, Preston? Well, I got so flustered after talking to Miss Johnson, but remember, we didn't go to our lockers at all. Oh, what are we going to do? I know, said Charlie. Preston, let's ask your mom if we can go back to the school. One of us can go to the locker, Red's is closer, and we can get a history book. And we'll come back and we will really study for that test. So Preston's mother said they could go, and so they walked to school, and the lights were still on. They tried the door. The door was unlocked. I bet Mr. Campbell's in here, the janitor. He's still here and he's working. So they walked into the school, and they were walking by the principal's office, and Charlie said, what was that? And Red and Preston said, well, I don't hear anything. Charlie, come on, we've got to get to the locker. Now, they could hear Mr. Campbell down the hallway. He was working, but they didn't see him. And so they went to Red's locker. It was the closest. They opened it up, got out the history book, and they ran down the hallway, ran down the steps, and ran all the way to Preston's house to begin studying. Now, Mr. Campbell had heard them. And as he came out into the hallway, he saw them running past the principal's office, out the door, and it looked like they were carrying something. He didn't know why they were at school. The next day, Charlie, Preston, and Red are back at school, right in front of Miss Johnson's desk. They felt they did very well on the history test. They were really proud of themselves. It was at the end of the day, and suddenly Miss Johnson's door opened, and the principal came in. They didn't see Mr. Wilson, the principal, very often. So he came in, and he said, Charlie, Red, Preston. He wasn't smiling. I need to see you in my office right now. They were just stunned. Charlie had never in his whole life of going to school been called to the principal's office. So they slowly got up. Miss Johnson glared at them, and they walked out the room, down the hallway to the principal's office. Tomorrow, we'll find out why.